pause for the editor. Hello and welcome.
Welcome.
Oh man, you never tag in like that.
Magic of the charisma.
I feel like Brett has certainly found his Jim Neidhart, and no, I will not be changing that around. Got it, got it, neighbor. I only call myself Brett because A, I deserve it, and then B, I'm wearing Brett shorts.
Of course.
So, but if you'd rather, you can be an Owen. Ooh.
Are there any other options other than Anvil and Owen?
Bruce. Well, if you want to shoot truth, the reality, Bruce Hart is the to the wrestling nerds that know a lot about the Hart family. Bruce is the particular crown jewel. Certainly doesn't have the career that Brett did, right. Nor Owen for that matter. But what Bruce lacks in on paper accolades, he more than makes up in wearing American flag bandanas, even though he's Canadian.
I'm into it.
He looks like, who's that dickhead who kept testing guns to prove that Alec Baldwin did shoot that girl? You know what I'm talking about? The soap star is a John Schneider. Prince, back me up.
I have no idea.
We'll go with John Schneider.
John Schneider.
Yeah.
It was John Schneider.
Thank you. Yes.
One of the Schneiders.
Yeah. Anywho, looks like $1 million. And by that I mean like car salesman $1 million.
Is he alive?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
okay.
He's definitely alive.
Okay.
That's
an important feature if you're choosing a heart.
So here's a real famous little topical, that Vince McMahon documentary, so GD popular right now. But topical about that. So when Vince was going and buying up all the territories and basically taking away business, he made a deal with Stu Hart, Brett's dad, that like, I'll take your territory and your TV slot. I'll give, I think it was Brett and Dynamite Kid and British Bulldog. I'll give them all jobs. Jim Neidhart was in that too. And then I'll pay you $500,000 for your territory, and that's it. So they agreed to that. Bruce Hart said, I didn't agree to that, and so he ran a show as Stampede Wrestling, and that allowed Vince McMahon to totally renege on his deal, still steal the territory and the TV time, but not pay Stu Hart a dime.
Is that in that documentary?
No, that's in many other documentaries. But that Vince, quick birdwalk all the way around. That Vince McMahon documentary is a total waste of my time.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
My wife is super into it.
I'm sure. It is totally made for people who, like, on the periphery know about wrestling. Or maybe they were like a very, very, very lapsed fan. For the borderline criminals like me that spend way too much time reading and learning and absorbing all things, the true king of sport, pro wrestling, like there's no revelations at all.
Nothing new.
Nothing at all. And in fact, so much well-worn shit that it was just like... Sweet burn. Yes, it was a total... It was a... To me, it was more puff piece than burial, although they don't make him out to be nice.
Well, he apparently disavowed it even after...
Oh, yeah, he definitely made a statement saying, like, they used editing tricks or whatever. Anyway, there's big chunks of that documentary that's like, where it's like, did you know there was a Monday Night Wars? And there's this other company like WCW, and it's like, nope, I'm not watching that again.
My wife came to me and she's like, so I just watched this thing on this Montreal something, screw job, somebody screwed. Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard of that.
And then you immediately was all like, yeah, it definitely is a work.
They're all in on
Brett's
it.
in on it. Yeah, he's going to take it. He is going to take it to his deathbed. And they knew what they were doing. Anyway, digression. I will give that, on my scale, 2 out of 10. But if I was a normal, I would probably give it... If I was a normal, I would probably give it a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My wife is somewhere between a high 8 to a 9 right now. Okay. She's like super into it.
I could see that. I think for people who, again, because it's an interesting story for sure. And to people who aren't like totally invested in this crap, I could see it resonating more with them. For sure. But anywho, timing, right? We're talking topically, even though we're not, because when this comes out, it's in the past.
Another great segue.
Yeah, but today we're talking about timing, playing games at the right time, or in many cases at the wrong time. And let me just say this, because this hit me when you and the dear Prince were out on a pizza sabbatical.
Oh yeah,
it hit me like a cannonball that this is the first opportunity when we talk about timing and missing the boat. and not being at the right place at the right time, and he's nodding, and it's destiny. We've talked about this on the show so many times, but the Good Prince and I, we played Monster Hunter Rise when it came out, day one.
Oh, you did?
No, I've said what I've had to say to you several times on the public record.
Oh no.
But now the Prince has full reign, full disembodied voice reign to let you know how wrong you were on that decision. Feel free.
I'm not turning left.
It is just a simple statement of, I am just disappointed in you.
Yeah.
I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, it's disappointed.
It's just sad
Right.
tuba.
But did you hear my side of it though?
Well, I don't care about your side.
Yeah, that's the right answer. But the thing is that he has. It was you were playing Uncharted in the hardest and least fun mode.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah.
Does that
You
do
missed
anything
out
to
on
change?
being in the rockers. When we started
Yeah.
off, we had guitar weapons.
We sure
and
did.
We were killing like monsters and wearing their skins.
We were taking
You missed out on that
Yeah.
to play a subpar Indiana Jones game.
Yeah. The first Uncharted, I would consider, if you said it was Uncharted 2, I'd be like, oh yeah, no, I get it. Even Uncharted 3, but Uncharted 1, it's like, you've done it. You've done normal. Come join us. Yeah. Jimmy Hart needs to be in the natural disasters. Typhoon and earthquake are here, and we're kicking ass. But we need Jimmy Hart, and you could have been our Jimmy Hart, and you weren't. And I'll never let you live it down. No. And I don't think the Prince will either.
What can I say? It was just bad timing.
Yeah. Oh man. Ah, yeah. Boing me, dog. Boing me. So yes, there are times when games come out that you've got to be riding that wave, or you're missing out on so much of the magic of it. Go for it.
The reason I wanted this topic specifically is because I've thought about this a lot lately as I try it seems like always losing battle of trying to arrange my life so that there's enough time to play the games that I want, to raise my kids, to run my business, to have a successful marriage. And you're always just kind of swimming upstream, it feels like, with all of that. And then every now and then I actually get on the ground floor with the game, and then I end up regretting it because the game is super buggy or it's missing certain features, and then they get patched in later, and then you never go back to it. And so I thought, okay, so the trick is don't play the games right away. Wait until there's a full feature-rich version of it.
There is sound logic in what you're putting forth right here.
Right, except that sometimes, and this is sort of the thesis of the show, sometimes you don't want to play a game right when it comes out because it's buggy or it's not feature complete. But then other times you don't want to wait to play a game because either you miss out on the experience of playing with your good friends, or you end up getting spoiled if it's a single player game. You get story spoilers or whatever.
Shit happens.
And then that ends up tainting your experience.
Yeah.
And sometimes even playing in the middle of an experience can be bad if the game it's come out and it's been patched, so it's a complete-ish version of it, but there's more content coming, and then you end up missing out on that content because you just played. I'm thinking of like Mass Effect 3 would probably be the best example here. So we played Mass Effect. The ending was hot garbage, and it's still hot garbage. Then they fixed the ending by adding that patch after the fact,
which is so cool that they did that. It's so awesome.
And so I have people that I know who went back and played and like, it's actually, the game is really, it's a fantastic ending. You get this complete story, and I'm like, I didn't do
all
any
the
of
loose
that.
ends tied up.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, I played it when it came out, like right when it came out. And it wasn't buggy, and I didn't have any spoiler problems or anything, so that was really cool. But I played the version that was out then, which was apparently an inferior version to the version that they patched later on.
Did you beat it early on before they fixed the ending? Okay, gotcha.
And it was awful. And I was like, what the hell was that? I just this is the third game. I put 150 hours into these games. Like, what are you doing to me? And then later on, it's like, and then they had this patch and it fixed everything. I was like, well, I'm not going to go back and beat it a second time and see these canon changes, or even if they expanded and they just expounded on the things that were in there before. It's like, it's already over at this point. It was a moment. The moment has passed. You lost me forever.
I'm that way with Cyberpunk. Like I got a Series X. I got Cyberpunk, and it was not buggy enough for me at that time for me to like put it down in disgust. And I was able to play it. And for what it was at that time, like I enjoyed it. But there is a big part of it where now that it's been updated to shit and back, like I want to go back and play it again. But it's also like, it's not like a short little game. Like, it's like a minimum like 40-hour or at least 30-hour deal.
Yeah.
And it's like, do I want to do all that again just to see, like better reflections or whatever the hell it is?
So they right. So you played it right at the beginning, and you told me at the time that you had a good enough time with it. It's
yeah.
And I think you even said it was better than it was being made out to be.
I definitely, and I still stand by that.
But since then they've patched it to Oblivion, basically.
Yeah, and now people just like acknowledge that it's a good CD Projekt game. People
and then
like
they released some DLC for it recently, which was also very, very well received.
Yeah.
So I've started playing it. And I mentioned this on a prior episode, having a pretty good time with it. Although I liked the beginning of the game more than I've liked the middle of the game, and I have something to say to you about this. I'm glad we can do a 1-minute bird walk on this, which is that when we talked about it before, I was like, Brian, I just played. I did the intro scene. It was incredible. This game is blowing my mind. It feels so cyberpunky.
And then I said, not enough noir there, Daddy.
It's exactly what you said. You said it's good, but if we're talking about cyberpunk,
the Prince backs me up on this, by the way, too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he gets it.
I'm now backing you up on this.
Three-peat.
Because I'm now I'm probably a third of the way into the game, but I'm well beyond the first opening scene, which I thought was perfect. And I've played enough of it now to know what you're talking about when you said that there wasn't enough noir parts to it. And I didn't know that when I had played that opening scene. So I was like, Brian, I don't know. This opening scene is like really, really good.
Yeah.
But now that I'm further into it, it's like, oh yeah, what they're doing here is not... It's not
not quite on the level.
It's not as much Blade Runner as I want it to be.
We were just yesterday, The Prince and I. Great movie, by the way, The Prince and I. But we were just talking about like how making a Blade Runner game just as is, like it's been like Snatcher is a Blade Runner game, like, but it's a super old 90s adventure game. Yeah. Like if they just made Cyberpunk or some enterprising modding team, somebody. Just take Cyberpunk, and then your source material is pick either Blade Runner movie. I'm fine with either one, and make it, and I will give you money. I'll give you a lot of money. Yeah, thank you. Because that to me seems like it's such a layup, and it's been there for so long. They made the late '90s adventure game, which I'm a fan of. The Prince poo-poos it. That's fine. We're all entitled to our opinions, but that's like the only time they ever really tried to do like an officially tied in Blade Runner thing.
They've announced the sequel, so
yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be what you want.
Me neither.
But anyway, so it looks like you were right about the noir part of the cyberpunk experience, and it actually
I'll file that in the Astrobot cabinet.
And it has tainted the gameplay experience a little bit for me because so many people are talking about how good the game is now. Timing. So I waited to play it until you have the full complete version. I'm playing the best version of it. And the opening scene was so great, it really set my expectations high. And then the rest of it, it's hard to say I'm disappointed by it. I see all the things that they're doing, and it like mostly works, but I'm just not getting into it as much as I wanted to.
Did you run into the same problem that I did, where you kind of, and I don't know if this has been balanced or patched out, and Prince, you can speak to this too. I know you played Cyberpunk more recently than I did, but I got to a point where I got too strong, too fast, and every time I went to a new place, like there was like almost no challenge, and it was just like I will brute force my way through this, and it was rinse repeat.
I'm not having much difficulty with combat in the game. I am trying to do it different ways. I'm trying some stealth just to kind of mix it up. I'm trying to do a particular encounter with stealth, trying to do one with just guns blazing, trying to do grenades. So I'm almost giving myself the challenge, but I haven't. The problem with the game isn't really the combat with me. It just is what it is. I'm just really not into the story that much. Yeah. And I'm kind of waiting for it to get to that point, and just maybe it'll get there.
I do think that the story. I don't think the story is like the worst thing I've ever like sat through or anything like that. Yeah. I think it's generally forgettable stuff for sure. Right. But yeah, that is not anything that like I fondly remember from that game.
It's not really, like Heavy Rain bad or anything.
Sure, I mean, that's, Let's be fair.
but it's also not. It's not great. It's not God of War Ragnarok levels of good either.
Yeah, or Blade Runner good, which is really what they should be fucking aspiring to.
I know. What they should be aspiring to. Yeah. So anyway. But Cyberpunk was one of the games I wanted to bring up on the topic of timing.
A very timing specific thing. Yeah.
Because if you played it at the beginning, you were missing out.
Yeah.
And if you play it now, it's apparently objectively significantly better than it was back then. So then it's like, okay, so this is what we need to do. We need to wait to play our games. Wait until you get the best version of them. It's like, but no. Because a game like Last of Us 2, you get major spoilers if you just wait, and people go out of their way to spoil the game in the big reveal.
That one was I remember that being a really, really big deal too, because there is like, and I'm still, luckily, somehow, I've avoided this, and I still haven't played Last of Us Part 2. I'm gonna do it before the show starts back up, but I don't know. So all I know is that there was a thing that happens in the game that's a pretty big twist, and then that was spoiled before the game even launched.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't get that spoiler, so I got the natural reveal. Which was significant.
Yeah.
But
that's what I would whenever I do get around to playing that game, that's how it's going to be for me, because I've still somehow stayed in the dark here.
But enough people I know did have that spoiled that it kind of
ruined it for
everything.
them. Yeah.
So that's one bad thing with the timing of playing, and then the other bad thing is the Monster Hunter example that you brought up. It could be that two games come out at the same time.
Yeah.
And then your friends are playing one game. So this is Elden Ring now, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're playing another game, and then you miss the boat on the other game that your friends are playing that you didn't play because you chose to play, in my case, Horizon Forbidden West instead of Elden Ring. In hindsight, I probably do wish I would have played Elden Ring over Horizon West. Well, it's not as much of a slam dunk as you think, because I really, really like Horizon Forbidden West.
That's true. You do love those.
And the games in general.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that I'm current. And I played through the DLC, and I got the platinum, so I did what I need to do there. But having not played Elden Ring is a significant hole in my
Well,
gaming resume.
when you brought up this topic, that the first thing that jumped to my head was the entire Souls series. Like those are games that if you don't play them right when they come out, you will miss out on stuff. In talking to the Prince, he's playing through Elden Ring right now. Chime in here, but how is that going? You're playing not in the DLC part; you're in the main game.
Brutal.
Yeah,
I cannot get anyone to help me. So brutal.
Yeah,
just brutal.
So those games, like I make no bones about it. When I play Elden Ring, I will attempt, for the fun of it, I'll attempt a boss a handful of times.
Yeah,
and then it's like, no, we're gonna take care of this, because they're so goddamn hard. Like, they're just hard. They're hard for people who are really good at video games. For me, who's like at best like a right in the middle C average player,
C student video gamer.
Like it's challenging. So like I will get in. I'll get ringers. And when you played that game right when it came out, and all Souls games are like this, by the way, going back all the way to the original PS3 one. Like when it's more active, not only is that the multiplayer part of the game like way more pronounced because of how easy it is to get into a game and have someone jump into your game, but you're also like solving, so to speak, like the lore puzzly parts of the game altogether, because that one of the hooks of the whole series is that they don't tell you shit about anything. So you have like, you're experiencing this game and it's all weird and mysterious.
Yeah. And
like just by engaging with the little messages on the ground, like you either learn this person's good, this person's bad. You could take it a step further, and if you go on on subreddits and stuff as these games come out, people talk about them and like solve the mystery together. And a real super famous example of this was Fez. Like that game, the Fez is on one hand like this weird like little platforming game that manipulates with perspective. Like that's the hook. But like the actual game was solving this whole story thing that's like within Fez. And there was this very tiny little window of time where that game, it was a Xbox Live Arcade summer deal, so there was a lot of attention on it, and it was like a kind of a runaway hit for an indie game. And at that time, that was still a very novel thing. Like we're talking 2011.
Yeah.
All these people came together and played this one game at the exact same time, and just constantly talked about it, and like dug this story that was buried within the game, and like they had to decipher a whole language, like all this cool ass shit. And like you can't do that again. You can't go back and play Fez for a second time and experience all that stuff. And that's the exact same thing with all those Souls games.
So I completely agree. There is a sort of a communal experience that really only exists once the knowledge or until the knowledge is discovered by the community. And to go to my favorite game of all time, World of Warcraft. 15 years after World of Warcraft launched, they went back and they said, we're releasing the original World of Warcraft again. You can play through it again. And everybody got really excited. But what you were getting excited about is not the opportunity to experience all that again. You're excited about the idea of going back in time to how you felt when you were going through it the first time. except that you cannot, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, zap that information out of your head.
Right.
And go. So when they relaunched the servers, what used to take literally months to get boss kills was now being done in 48 hours, because even though everybody's starting from scratch, you're all starting from scratch, but with the communal knowledge that had been gained about how the game works and how the systems work over 15 years. So there's only one opportunity to go back to the multiplayer episode that we did. You have a moment in time. And the moment of time is the game comes out and everybody's doing the same thing, and there's a sort of a zeitgeist to it, and it's like, okay, here, we're figuring this all out together, we're playing it together, or we've got ringers available to us to help us get through the content, and then the moment is gone, and then you can still play the content, but you can't get it back, and you can't play it the way that you could at the very beginning. And I've started thinking about that a lot more because of my own missed opportunities with those games. And as the multiplayer conversation that we had, I had told you, this is a moment in time, and somebody's going to get a job or move on or whatever, and then it's just over.
Yeah, it'll stop.
And now it kind of has stopped.
You called it.
Well, it's not that hard to call, because that's just how life works.
Yeah, totally.
So, but I'm now wise enough to know, it's like, well, this is the moment, you got to hold on to it real tight. So again, one of the inspirations for the episode was, well, that can apply to single player games also. And you can also have a moment in time when Elden Ring is coming out, and it's like the thing to do right now, because of the social component of the game, because this is the biggest release of the year, is to play this game and to wait on Horizon Forbidden West, even though that is also a good game. And even when you go back to play both, you're not getting the same experience.
When you did the same thing with Tears of the Kingdom, too.
Also correct. Yeah, I forgot what the game was that came out along with Tears of the Kingdom. It might have been actually the DLC for Horizon Forbidden West.
There you go. You have a very specific taste.
Yeah. So anyway, but that only works, though. That only works if it's a game like Elden Ring that is feature complete and not buggy and from the get-go.
Yeah.
If it had been Cyberpunk that came out at the same time that Horizon Forbidden West did, and I chose to play Cyberpunk, I would have regretted playing that game over Horizon then, because it was a buggy mess.
In those cases, though, you have like an overwhelming deluge of information telling you not to play Cyberpunk, because it's just this giant, huge fart, right? Whereas Elden Ring, when it comes out, it's like, oh, this is like, well, I don't know, the best game in the last 20 years, and they nailed it, and go enjoy it immediately.
The early reviews were like 960.
Yeah, and that wave is the same like level, but it's all in the positive. So you do have some tool set to be able to be like, okay, I'll ignore this or I won't.
Well, but do you, though? Because that tool set comes out, let's say within 48 hours of the game launching, the reviews come out, and then the player base starts commenting.
Yeah.
Nobody knew Cyberpunk would be as bad as it was at launch until it actually released and people started having the problems.
That's fair. Yeah.
So if it's a game that's mega hyped, and both Elden Ring and Cyberpunk fall into this category, then you can't really know until the game is actually in people's hands. And there are many examples of reviewers giving 9s and 10s to games that are buggy messes because the social features of the game aren't something that the reviewers are experiencing. Like the SimCity 2013 is the perfect example of this. That game got 9s and 10s, but then when everybody started playing it, their servers got crushed, and then the reviews,
and it wasn't the exact same.
Yeah, and it's like IGN, you gave this game a 9.5, but I can't actually play it right now because it's broken. So is it a 9.5? I don't think so. So anyway, that's. And then the other thing I want to mention about timing too, if you wait long enough, a game can go from being really, really innovative to just really, really bad over time. Mm-hmm. So earlier in this episode, I brought up the infamous Heavy Rain. Yeah. Heavy Rain is a game that everybody that I...
You know, it's like you forget that there's a ninja in the room, and then all of a sudden you hear someone puke into a toilet. And that's the Prince on a soundboard difference.
Prince is a prince, no doubt about it.
I've had some good ideas. Bringing him along and programming that soundboard might be at the tippy top of this list.
So Heavy Rain, when it came out, anybody who played that game when it came out in 2010 and has not played it since says the exact same thing to me. Game was really super fun, super innovative, was doing things that other games weren't doing. I played that game in 2021.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell are all you talking about? This is hot garbage. The story is bad. The gameplay is bad. I'm making this guy brush his teeth. That's supposed to be gameplay. Are you kidding me? And
but to devil's advocate, yes, the game is aged poorly, and it kind of in hindsight was always bad. But if you could just appreciate all the bad French English accents, you would see that there's so much more meat on that bone that you're giving it credit for.
Right.
Don't let me stay in my apartment. I have a baby here. It's like, oh, that's Chicago. Yeah, that sounds exactly like deep South Chicago for sure. Yes. But no, kind of in seriousness to that, though, I do think that it's a person-to-person thing. And that, so I will defend with my bare hands how much I love Shenmue. And a part of how much I love Shenmue is my appreciation of some of the campier aspects of it.
Yeah.
And I boil it down to entertainment is entertainment regardless of its intent in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I also have a lot of really, really warm, nostalgic, fun, time and place memories of Shenmue. And that's why I go back and play that game like every single year. But tons and tons and tons of people, I've always thought Shenmue was boring and stupid and a waste of everyone's time. And just like Heavy Rain, like it's the same thing. So if you are a person who you can't appreciate shit from the past, especially in the video games medium, as more than someone else, then there's a disconnect there, I think.
Well, Heavy Rain's an interesting test case. Heavy Rain is an interesting test case because it's a game that I may have joined the chorus of people lauding back in 2010. Mm-hmm. Because in 2010, before the last 15 years of gaming, the things that it was doing, even if boring, were innovative and interesting, and it's trying to be cinematic and all this other stuff. But now games have evolved and they're more sophisticated and all that. And so when you're going backwards, this is like your bit about climbing in video games and how much you hate it and how much it sucks.
Yeah.
Sure, now, 10 years ago when you were doing it for the first time, or 15 years ago when you were doing it for the first time, it felt fun because it was like, ooh, the scale of the thing, and then you're getting to the top of a mountain, you can see down it.
But then it gets oversaturated, and then you're completely done with it.
So the whole, in keeping with the theme of the episode of timing, I sort of regret, this is the only time I'll ever say this, I regret not playing Heavy Rain when it first came out, because then I might have actually been able to see what the hell was going on with this game that everybody was into. And the same thing was with Uncharted. Uncharted had a bunch of climbing stuff in it, the original Uncharted game. And you could tell the way it's in the game. It's like, oh, I bet this was kind of a big deal when it very first came out.
Same thing with the first Assassin's Creed, like all the auto climbing crap that it does.
Right, so, but now if you go back and look at that stuff, and you're like, well, this is dumb, this isn't good. And video games, more than any other media, have that going for them.
Yeah.
And that when you go back in the past, oftentimes it looks really, really bad. That's why they just released the 10th anniversary edition of Braid, my favorite indie game ever. And I went back and played that, and I was like, oh, this is literally timeless. Mm-hmm. It's felt just as good now as it did then. It'll be just as good 20 years from now as it is now. That game is literally timeless, which is why it's my favorite indie game ever. But there's a number of other games where it feels like a lost opportunity in some respects that I didn't play in the moment when the game was hot.
Yeah.
And now I can't go back and get that experience again that everybody else got because the game is just aged, and I played other games that are doing.
Yeah, but do you think that's see the argument that I'm trying to make, if it's even an argument at all, is that for you as a person, it's harder for you to put your mind back into the context of which the game was released. So like I can play an NES game that I'd never played before and be wowed by things that I know the NES was kind of like. What's the word? Like bottlenecked at in terms of like, Contra only looks so good. But I'm still looking at like an old ass 8-bit game. But because I can like examine it with that contextual lens, like it allows me to appreciate that shit even more. And like related, I have been wanting to ask you this question, and since we're kind of talking about it, do you enjoy old movies?
Well, man, it is a really good question and perfectly topical. Mostly no.
Okay.
Mostly no.
Well, and aside, before you elaborate on that, from a technical standpoint, do you not like watching, let's say, like really old movies, like specifically black and white movies, because you don't like the antiquated technology of what you're seeing?
Mostly yes.
Okay.
Now, I'll give you two counterpoints. When I watch Citizen Kane, that movie does a lot of stuff with camera tricks and things like that have never been done before, and I can actually appreciate it. It's like, wow, this must have been blown people's minds in the 30s when it came out.
Yeah, they invented a dolly.
And, and when I watch Casablanca, that is some of, in my opinion, the best writing I've ever actually seen in a movie for just the cleverness of the dialogue. So I can appreciate that. Mm. But those are also like two of the top 5 movies ever on many people's lists. Outside of that, if you're just watching your average, Marilyn Monroe movie from the 50s or whatever, or a movie from the 40s, it's just hard. And I don't want to say like it's a millennial's attention span or whatever, but maybe it is. But the answer to your question is no, I cannot appreciate the movies in the context of what they were originally viewed in most cases.
Yeah.
Those 2 exceptions that I listed to the contrary. And the exact same thing exists with video games. I cannot do the thing that you just described where I'm playing an 8-bit Nintendo game and I'm like, man, if this was 1989 and I saw this, I mean, this would really be something.
And see, for me, like I do that, like in a to quote the great boss Don Henley in a New York Minute. Like it just goes, and I go, oh yeah, it's 1991, got it, and
I'm there.
And I was definitely playing Toe Jam and Earl, and I remember what that's like, and yep, got it. It just so like it's just I bring that up because I think it's a big difference in terms of how we consume now, not just video games, but now all media.
Yes,
so there's that.
And believe me, I'd rather be, in so many ways, you than me.
Boing me, Doc.
Because the idea of like going back to 1991, feeling like you're eating Shakey's Pizza, and drinking Mountain Dew with your friends. Playing
I pay rent there. Yeah.
I used to have a friend I'd go to his, and he was my Genesis friend, so that was the game I always wanted to play with. It was Toe Jam and Earl, and there was a Shakey's Pizza by his house, and it wasn't near my house, so I started to just associate all those things together, and we would play that game, then we would watch The Goonies, and we go and play the game again, then we would watch some other John Hughes movie.
Can we stop this and just? I have Goonies right behind me.
We'd watch The Wizard, right?
Ah, yes,
yeah. And that was why when you such a worthy bird walk. So Brian comes to have a sleepover to party with me one night, and
as you do in your 40s,
and we're just why wouldn't you do this every weekend? Yeah. And we're just flipping through the channels, and The Wizard came on.
Yeah,
and there was such glee on both of our faces.
We just stopped what we were doing. We just settled in. We just settled right in and watched The Wizard. Perfect. That movie is a flawless victory of cinema.
We watched that movie, and then right either before or after that, we did the last thing that I needed to do to get the platinum trophy that doesn't exist in Toad's Treasure Tracker.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the best night of my life, but it
was pretty satisfying.
It
was definitely satisfying.
It's in the top quintile.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing. But yeah, I think that what we're both kind of saying there is just, I think that is like a personal difference, but like, I certainly don't think that either one of us are unique in that. I think a lot of us are you and a lot of us are me in terms of being able to consume that kind of stuff. One thing I want to bring out, and it's a much more tangible, and I think for the times, as we talk about states' rights and clearly inflation.
No, please, no.
Starting to sweat.
I'm building on themes here. I think one of the best... So my main reason for waiting to play games, far and away, like 10 days a week, the reason why I wait to play games is purely out of cheapness. So I buy all my games when I can. I buy all my games physically when they present that option. And unless like I'm really, really into the hype of a game, or it's a series that I will always like day one buy and I'm really into, I typically wait a good chunk of time to buy my crap.
This is so not true when it comes to Nintendo. You buy every first-party Nintendo game day and date.
Yeah. We were going to cross that bridge when we got there. But by and large, like I wait to play a game because the cost of this shit drops so fast.
Oh yeah.
Like if you wait a month, you're saving like 30 to 50%. And if it's a popcorn fart release, then forget about it.
In the PC space, every Steam Summer Sale everything's going down by at least a third.
Yeah. So. Although sadly, I think that's there seems to be a little more uptick on that. The deals aren't as good as they once were.
They're not as good as they once were. Yeah.
But that's maybe a topic for another discussion. But yeah, I do think that there's a really good incentive in waiting to buy games, and it's exactly that. You just get to save a bunch of money.
As long as you've got a backlog, there's almost only reasons to wait because you just play the games on your backlog. Unless by waiting, you're missing out on playing with your friends or participating in the zeitgeist or anything.
I don't have that problem. I will backburner anything and everything when like a big major, like when Elden Ring came out, I completely stopped what I was doing, played it. I do that with every Mario game, every Zelda game. Like there are certain tentpole releases that when they come out, like I just completely stop whatever it is that I'm doing and go. But this is a personal thing. I just watched you. You had to complete your side salad before you went to your pizza. You had to finish the French fries before you went to your cheeseburger.
I can't help it. Yeah.
You can't help it. It's just the way that your brain works.
But I have committed to you that in February of next year, when every freaking video game is coming out, but I am going to make time for Monster Hunter Wild.
We're moving it all. Because now it's under the physical threat of violence now. Is really what's on the table.
I don't want that, but also I don't want to miss out. So I'll probably have to put Civilization to the side.
Yes.
And I may have to you might have to put that Yakuza game to the side.
I will. I'll 100% do that.
Okay. Well,
because when it comes to destroying drug addicts on my streets, and that's how we play Monster Hunter. We role play hard line, straight edge. Violence against violence is how you take your streets back. And those monsters, when we're unified, when our hardcore family is unified, there's nothing that can stop us. Yeah. Literally nothing that can stop us. Very good.
What has happened to our show, Brian?
Just a 300cc injection of pure fun. That's what's happened.
Yeah, no doubt. So, would you say that you take it? Okay, let's say that it's not a tentpole release. Like Elden Ring is an obvious tentpole release. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like a major release that's coming out between now and then. Well, I guess the Mario Brothership that's coming out in November.
Oh, yeah.
That feels like it would be a day one purchase for you.
It is. I love Mario. Mario and Luigi RPGs are great. Love them.
Okay, yeah. But you did just say that I know how much you love the Yakuza series.
Yes.
And that the Hawaii game was just announced, and that is also coming almost exactly at the same time as Monster Hunter. And you're saying you will backburner that to play Monster Hunter.
Oh yeah, Monster Hunter, especially again reclaiming our streets from these junkies. That's more fun. Like I'm looking more forward to that than I am playing another. And as much as I love the Yakuza series, I'll also say in that camp. I just this year played Infinite Wealth. Sunk I think 120 hours into that game. So like I feel
that's your 100-hour game.
Yeah, I feel pretty satiated there. And I will definitely get the Pirate Life or whatever the hell they're calling the new one, the Majima one.
The combination of just like the fact that you've recommended the series so much.
Oh yeah.
That it's got this zany combination of Pirate Life in Hawaii. And that I've played a healthy amount of Sea of Thieves, and so I'm super into pirate games right now.
Oh yeah, you've got the bite.
Oh, do I get a ship?
Do I get scurvy? Is that a part of
it? Yeah, I'm gonna try to be there on day one for that game, but I don't know because I'm not gonna put Monster Hunter down after having missed out on Monster Hunter the first.
No, and again, under the full threat of physical violence, you're gonna be jumped into this crew, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about it because. I've been trying to think about what the ideal time to play a game is, and it's hard to come up with because
I definitely think it's a case by case thing. There are games that you are playing. Perfect example of a safe wait. Those Mario and Rabbids games. Those Mario and Rabbids games are awesome. We both love them. They're, as fans of strategy RPGs, I think they're the tip top. If you buy them when they come out at $50, you have thrown away 40 of those $50 because they plummet in price.
Yeah.
And I bought the first one. I think you bought right when it came out. I believe, right?
I think the first one I played a demo.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, oh, I got to go get this.
Yeah, it's right up yours.
Yeah, but then the second game I definitely bought right when it came out.
Okay. So I haven't bought that second one yet, and it is all day long on Amazon, like $15.
Yeah, and
I'm just waiting to get to it.
Of course, but with that, you're not worried about missing any zeitgeist there because it's not a part of it. Yeah, and you're not worried about story spoilers because it's not a part of it.
It neatly fits in that I can miss this game for now.
So it'll always be there waiting for you if you ever get around to it. Totally. So that is actually a pretty good example of you can wait on it. And there are those examples out there. I think really for me, I've just been lamenting some of the decision making that went into playing certain games in certain ways at certain times, and not just the raw bad decisions in the moment, but now the existential regret after the fact of not being able to go back and experience those games the exact way that other people were experiencing them in the moment. Totally. I think that's the lost cause there that I'm trying to prevent.
A big one for me, and it's so long ago that like I really don't care, and I'm just never gonna get around to do it. But when I was an N64 kid, and then Final Fantasy VII came out, and I just didn't play it.
Yeah.
That's a big moment. I'll never be able to like go rewind and go and be a part of it. And now, like, I really don't care about it, and I kind of look at Final Fantasy VII as like that's when they jumped the shark. It's like when they kind of went more sci-fi, and then like the funny haircuts, and they've never really like gotten the ship corrected back from what I consider prime Final Fantasy, which is
1 through 6.
3/6 in particular. Yeah. But yeah, like to do it all over again, like to be able to play like one of the biggest, most influential video games of all time, like when it was really hot, like that probably was a good time.
Now 30 years after the fact is getting new content made for it.
Yeah, exactly.
That might be Game of the Year also, by the way. Certainly it'll be a nominee for Game of the Year.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah.
That one, I also missed out on that because we were both Nintendo kids during that time.
Yep.
And
yeah, your brother and sister played it though at that time.
My sister is the biggest Final Fantasy person, and I look forward every 5 years to her telling me.
Yeah, get her report on them.
Well, and her reports have been disappointing, at least for the last two. So she did not like 16, did not like 15 before that.
Yeah.
14 was the MMO, right?
Yep.
So it's been a while since she's been like, yeah, gotta play this. But she did really like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. In fact, she's actually asked to come on the show.
Come on down.
Nah, you don't need her.
Well, what kind of soundboard options does she come with? Hey, pump the brakes. We've unearthed a new stream here.
Yeah, I don't know, Fleetwood Mac sound bites. That's
I can work with that. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Okay. Well, I think I feel like the timing of video games thing is it's certainly a part of games. Just like we've talked about hype in the past, we talked about these elements of like the fandom of video games, and yeah, I think there's like we've just said. I think it's a case by case basis. It's a person to person basis. I know people that never ever buy brand new games, and it's specifically because they're fucking miserly and they just don't give a shit about hype. Like it doesn't affect them either way. So like, and for them that makes total sense. For us, more on the pervert scale of things, like there are certain games where I really want to be. So, perfect example of this, friend. My good personal confidant and friend Terry Bogard just came out on Street Fighter 6, and I was like, well, I've got to fix this problem. He needs to be in my life right now, and he's in the I could have bought him by himself. But then, like, it's in a pack with Bison, and Bison's my guy. So it's like, yeah, here's $30. And, like, I know full well if I waited, like, 4 months, like, that DLC is, like, $10. But I was like, no, I need it right now. I have to have it now.
Well, that's very specific to you, though.
Exactly, yeah.
Let me ask you, but you don't really care as much about story in games as we've covered extensively. Have you ever gotten a story spoiler in a game that you hadn't played yet, and you're like, I wish I would have been made aware of that?
No, for me, I'm pretty good at that, but it's because I don't go on social media or anything like that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's happened in the past, and I can't think of an example of it. But I've definitely played games that had kind of big twists in them that I didn't play until late. That just through cultural osmosis, like I found out about it, and certainly like that was lessened. Like that's definitely happened. Yeah. I think a good example of that is we've talked about Uncharted several times. Like I kind of knew that. Spoilers for this game that came out in 2007, but there's a point in every Uncharted game, but it started in the first one where like things get really weird off the rails and it becomes like a sci-fi monster shooting kind of a thing.
Yeah, or even like ghosts.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah, there's always something fantastic at the end of an Uncharted game, and I think if I remember right, that first one was spoiled for like I knew that was happening before it went down. But yeah, if that would have happened to me on like a game I really give a shit about, then like I'd be bummed out.
Or it could be it could end up being this Yakuza game.
Yeah,
because if you're playing Monster Hunter, because you're not playing Yakuza, and then
that's
you get a major Yakuza spoiler, that's gonna suck.
But again, the fact that I really don't go on social media at all, like that helps a whole lot.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you need more social media in your life, Brian, for so many reasons.
That's really good advice. That's really good advice.
Take my advice.
And that's for everyone out there. Just like if you feel like you're not on social media enough, you should definitely do more social media. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong indeed?
Right. So, states' rights. Let's get into it.
Damn it!
No!
He's coming back.
Please, no!
Okay. Well, is there anything more you want to get off the old chest about timing?
No.
I feel like we've really done this this volley solidly
Yeah,
here.
no, we did it. Just an interesting topic. Case by case is sort of the lesson. But in my particular case, it's going to be more of playing games that have a social component to them.
Yeah.
And have really captured the public or the gamer's imagination right when they come out. And for sure, choosing Horizon Forbidden West over Elden Ring, I would definitely do that differently.
Yeah,
And
that was a misfire. That was a pretty big misfire.
yeah, no, well, again, it's hard because I really do like the Horizon game, but
Yeah.
for all the reasons that we just covered, yeah, it was a misfire. And I will not make that same mistake when February rolls around and there's 3 major games, Yakuza, Civilization, and Monster Hunter, that are all coming out in that month. And an Assassin's Creed game, by the way, is also coming out in that month. But I will be playing Monster Hunter.
Yeah, because street by street, block by block, we're taking it all back.
Jungle by jungle.
We're taking it all back. All right. Well,
Firestorm to purify.
yeah. Thank you. A firestorm to purify. All right. Well, that's going to do it here on this one. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you want to go ahead and rap with us on Spotify, we are there. Leave a 5-star review. It does help. Tell your friends about this program. Special in-studio thank you to the fine good prints on the 1s and 2s and the Corey Haim soundboard.
Oh. Yes.
Your input on this one has just been second to none.
Couldn't have done it without you.
Couldn't have done it. Couldn't have done it. And there it is. Challenge accepted. Combat. Okay. Well, you want to do a timing-based gentleman's handshake?
I want to do a pinky promise handshake to play Monster Hunter together.
Oh, this is on public record. Okay. Well, that's our camera. Let's go right there. We're going to go right here.
The motto of, the 2 Corys are Corey or
We're
Hamster and
letting Corey
Feldog.
tell this story.